Hi, I'm Hillary Irons, the Gallery and Exhibitions Director at the University of New England in Portland and Biddeford, Maine. Welcome to Studiolab, a remote studio visit series. I'd like to introduce you to Kifah Abdulla, an artist and poet who has been an important part of the Maine arts and literary scene since he moved to the United States. An educator as well as an artist, his work has been published and exhibited around the country. A show at the UNE Art Gallery in Biddeford is being planned, and we are excited to have the opportunity to work with Kifah. Hello, Kifah, and welcome.
Thank you, Hillary. Thank you so much for having me.
First, could you tell us where you're from originally and how long you've lived in the state of Maine?
Okay. I have lived in Maine. This is what I want to say, that I'm 10 years old. So that means that my history in America and only in Maine and Portland for like 10 years. I moved to the country in 2011 and from Holland. So this is just what I make for fun with people when they ask me about that. So I'm originally from Baghdad, Iraq, but also that my ancestors from everywhere from Arabic Peninsula, like one of them from that nowadays Saudi Arabia, and very old that ancestor, he gave us the name of the family from Iran, Persia, and the third one from Turkey, and the last one was from Syria, and then Iraq. So many blood streams in my blood. My background as an artist, but also that as a poet writer, it goes like in parallel. So I grew up in a creative family. Like my dad was really creative, almost to be an artist, but he was a lawyer. And also my uncles, I lived, my childhood was in my grandfather's home. And it was a big story that happened with me about the real beginning when I was in the middle school. So I purchased, if I talk about, my experience as a writer, I purchased like hundreds books, used books. So I learned a lot, about the literature, poetry, and so many big names like Emily Dickinson, like American poet, Edgar Allan Poe, but also the Shakespeare, like T.S. Eliot, so many, Neruda. But with the art, it was so wonderful experience. I had seen that time a series about Picasso. So I tried to do the same thing. Picasso, like as a kid, he paints everywhere, on walls, on the floor, the ground. So I did the same thing, and my mother was so upset because I paint and write everywhere, and even on used tables and walls, like desk, everything. So, but my artist teachers, in the middle school, that the first time I shared my art teacher to work on a mural. So from that was the real beginning for me.
Wonderful, thank you so much. In your artwork, Kifah, we see examples of imagery deriving from both Arabic calligraphy and the history of abstraction. For example, in your works, Hope, Promise, and My Creativity, I see echoes of Franz Kline, Matisse, and other modernist painters, as well as Arabic letter forms. Could you please tell us a bit about the role of art history and text in your work?
Like I said, that I'm originally from Baghdad, Iraq. There were the first greatest invention of human beings, that in the history about the cuneiforms, the script. So from that script cuneiform, and then like Ugaritic and Aramaic, and then Nabatean, and then the Arabic. also that the Arab people used the Arabic script as an art forms before Islam. So imagine, but after Islam, it became that holy, script, a holy language. Also that I want to talk about, many nations speak Arabic at that time because of that, the Quran, the holy book. But also when I talk, you see that in my art, this is correct, absolutely right. You see that the sense, like the taste of Matisse, you see that Franz Klein. I say all those wonderful artists are my influencers. But if I want, one of the dynasties, that Umayyad dynasty, the Arabic became that an international language. So this is true, and I don't want to try to imitate, those artists, but I want to introduce Arabic in a way, in a modern, that to be fit with the West, in this culture. My social message here with that Rebel project, rebel, take action, take a good action. I use art as a medium to talk about many social and environmental issues. And also you can see that some of the images, I talk about the pollution, that air pollution, the climate change, the plastic pollution. I also talk about, the mass shooting, so many. I talk about the racism in that rebel, take a good action for anything. But also my message with that rebel project, just like I don't want for bring awareness, but I want for people to take a good action for that. So this is my message, also to show that the international language of the Arabic is everywhere. And one very important thing is beautiful about Picasso, what once he said about the Arabic calligraphy. If you don't mind, I can read that to you. Pablo Picasso once said, "If I had known there was such a thing as Islamic calligraphy, I would never have started to paint. I have strived to reach the highest levels of artistic mastery, but I found that Islamic calligraphy was there ages before I was." So it's really wonderful that so many great artists, they already know about Arabic calligraphy, but I really want to introduce that the Arabic calligraphy in a modern, say, my way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kifah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Could you please tell us what you have coming up next, what you're working on now in your studio?
So in my head, many projects, and I hope that I can do most of them, but I'm continuing, to find that the way to innovative ways to create my new style, like what you see behind me with this. Maybe for some people that think they're just like symbols, like one of my greatest influencers, John Miro. But you see symbols, just symbols. But here it's Arabic calligraphy in modern way, because I don't follow the rules, the classic, that so many rules. So I said this is my rebel calligraphy, and I'm continuing just on this style, but also that I continuing on working on rebel project, and I'm working that on installations and sculptures, and I hope I can do that. Yeah, and hope for a future that for upcoming, this year, to be with two great artists, friends at UNE, with with that museum.
Thank you. Thank you, Kifah. That's wonderful. Could you tell us just one piece of advice for young artists who are just starting out in their field?
We live in a crazy world, I see, like, but for art fields, for the young, like artists, my advice, just like not to give up, just continue to find their exact styles and way. And unbelievable this time, in this modern time, you see that young artists, they are making great stories. Like, it's not just like about, when you talk about Van Gogh, like Vincent van Gogh, like Picasso, Miro, and others. But a living young artist, they are doing so well, great. Just like that, they not to give up and just continuing working on there to find their style, their own styles. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kifah. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Hilary. Thank you very much.